Okay, so what we're going to want to do, this is a video to help you with the 1-4 Excel assignment, which I'm going to ask you to try in your group. So when you go to the assignments tab, you're going to click on spreadsheet 1-4. I'm going to do this with the Google template. So what I just discovered is when I do the template, remember that it's view only. So in order to make a copy, you're going to go File, Make a Copy, and then you can find your own folder where you're going to want to put this. So I have a folder in my drive called Math 58 Sheets Josi. And so if I save it here, that's where I'm going to select, and then I can delete the word template and write Josi, and then get rid of that copy of. Okay, so this is going to make a new spreadsheet that you can actually edit, and it does have all of the instructions, and I'm going to show you how to do this formula. It was actually a little tricky for me to figure out. So here's the thing. When you drag down and you do an autofill, and you do cell references, it actually changes the cell. And so I was having some difficulty with the formula, but we're going to compare the simple interest to the compound interest. So you're going to type a formula in cell B3 that models the following description. You deposit an amount into the account of $1,000 and it pays you 5% simple interest on that $1,000 every year. So if I go to B3, remember it's column B, row 3. So this cell right here is B3, and that's referenced up here in the corner. All of my formulas start with an equal sign. Now, the problem is if I cell reference B3 and I drag it down, it's going to constantly be referencing the next cell down. So if I want to lock that number in, if I want to lock it, there's a special way to say, I don't want to change that cell when I autofill. What you have to do to lock it in is you put a $B, $3. That will keep it holding at that cell. And so we're going to take that amount and we're going to add it to, same thing, $B, $3. It doesn't actually matter if it's capped. I probably could have cap locked the B, but doesn't matter. So we're going to go times 5%, which is 0.05, and then asterisk for times the number of years. And I'm doing a cell reference for that. I don't want to lock that cell because I do want, when I autofill, I want to be able to continue to lock the first few cells. Okay, what is going on? There's a problem here. Circular dependency. To resolve this just worked. I literally just had it work. Let me try it again. So equal sign, $B, $3 plus that same thing, $B, $3 times 0.05, that's 5%, times the number of years. Enter. Still an error. Well, I had it done on this one. What did I do differently here? This is literally the exact same thing and it worked. I don't know what was the problem there. Oh, that's because I was referencing B3. You see, actually, sorry, I needed to reference B2. So in my formula, B2 is where the $1,000 is. So once I have that formula in, so don't do B3 because you're in B3. Now, once you have the formula and you drag down the corner, that will autofill, and those should be your amounts. And we can see that every single time it's increasing by $50. And that's because in the formula, if I click on B4, you can see that the B2 was locked in because of the dollar signs before and after the letter. And then the A4, that changed. So that's after 2 years. So that's adding $250. And then the next one's adding $150. And then the next one's adding $200. And every time you click in the cell, look up here and you can see the cell reference. Okay, now for the next one, this one is the account 2 is exponential growth, which means it is going to, you're getting 5% on your new amount. You still want to lock in that $1,000. So when I do the formula, I'm just going to actually delete this and do it over again. Make sure I get it right here. Oops. So delete it. There we go. So I go into C3, I put equal sign. Now I want to reference that cell. I don't want it to auto fill that. I want to lock in the cell. So to do that, I'm going to do $C, $2, not 3. Okay. And then we're going to multiply by 1.05. That's 105% because that will include the original amount. And then we're going to use an exponent. So to the power of, and again, I want to use that cell reference. This time I will want the cell reference to drag down because I want it to change for every year. So that's okay not to put dollar signs around the A3. And now I push enter. Oh my goodness, what happened now? Oh, I need an asterisk, sorry, asterisk for multiplication. So I did asterisk, there we go. Okay, so the formula was, and if you click in the cell, you'll see the formula, equal sign, $C, $2, that's locking in that $1,000 deposit, asterisk for multiplication, and then I'm doing 1.05 to the power of that year. Now, when I drag that down, you'll see the difference in how the account increases. And so every single time it's adding more money because you're getting 5% now on the $50. So, so every year you're making more money. And at the end of it all, you can see the difference here. And that's quite a difference. I mean, you basically, after 30 years, you know, you've almost increased that, not quite double, but, you know, quite a significant amount more. So that's the power of compound interest, which is the reason why in our book, Einstein says, you know, something about the power being very, I don't know, what did he say? Well, you can read it in your group. 1.4, he said, the very beginning, he said, the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And, you know, we were just watching this show called The Universe, and it's like really amazing, actually, if you think about the universe. I mean, I don't even know, where does it stop? You know, it kind of blows my mind. But anyway, okay, so there, of course, is a part 2. So we did all these directions. I didn't read them, but you can read them over. So at the bottom tab, you'll see a part 2. And now we're going to figure out, so this was the same thing as the applications in your book. So what's really cool about Excel, it will do the math for you. So there's 4 different tables here, and hopefully you've already worked through these. This is why I want you to do the Excel afterwards. So in that assignment, you determined whether they were growing linearly, that means it's adding the same amount every time, that's the same thing as the simple interest, or if they're growing exponentially. And we call that exponential because it's using an exponent. That's what's changing every time is the exponent, meaning that we're multiplying every time, and that's going to be the compound interest. So, or the compound account. So use the the constants you found to determine those relationships to create a formula to calculate the values using cell references. So we're going to be filling in the green parts, and then use your auto fill down to drag that. Okay, save the spreadsheet without the word template. Well, we already did that because that's the whole way we had to edit it anyway. So those are sort of the directions here. I didn't read them verbatim, but just kind of skimmed them. So you might be able to tell automatically what is happening here, but I'm going to use these other cells on the side as almost like my scrap paper to decide what's going on here. So if I subtract them, and if I subtract the amounts and they're the same, that means it's going to be a linear growth. And if I subtract them and they're not the same, it could possibly be an exponential growth. So to subtract them, we already learned about the difference. I could go equal sign. I'm going to take that cell and I'm going to subtract the one before it. So I just click on the cell. I have B3 minus B2. And it's showing me the difference is 240. If I autofill, if I drag that down, that's finding the difference between the one before or the one after from the one before, so that I don't have a negative. So it was B3 minus B2. And then when I autofilled, it's basically going to take the next one, B4 minus B3, and then B5 minus B4. You know, you see that. And I can see that the difference is always the same. So that means that it is linear. And so if I want to do a formula that's going to calculate for the next few miles, basically I can just keep adding that 240 on. So if I go equal sign, take the cell before it, which is B7, I'm just going to simply add 240. And that's going to give me my next one. And I'm not going to use cell references here because those aren't pure numbers. I mean, we could have, but I would have to change that starting column. So now once I have that formula, B7 plus 240, I can just simply drag that corner down and that's going to autofill. Now it's taking the line before and it's adding 240. So it's referencing the cell above it and it's adding 240 every single time. Okay, and if I continue to autofill this, my scrap paper, you can see that the difference is also 240. You don't need this cell though at all. That was just me figuring out, is it linear? Okay. Now let's look at the next one. I can really tell right away that these are not adding the same numbers every time. You know, it's pretty obvious, but if you want to find out if it is, what you can do again is you go equal sign, take the cell, the second cell, which is E3, and subtract the first one. And the difference there is 1,200. But if I autofill, I can see that those sums are not staying consistent. So my other option is it multiplying? If it's not adding the same thing every time, is it multiplying by the same thing every time? Well, just like before, if I think about, well, the opposite of multiplication or addition was subtraction. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So why don't I try dividing them? So if I do equal sign, I take this number and I want to know, what did I multiply the first one by in order to get the second one? So I'm going to divide, that's a slash, by the first one. And I see that I multiplied by 1.1. If I drag that corner down, oh, it's consistently multiplying by 1.1. Now, in the previous example, when we said it was a 5% increase on exponential growth, we were multiplying by 1.05. So you might just think about, well, that was 105%, by the way. 1.05 is 100 is the 1, and the 0.05 is 5%. So here, 1.1 is actually 110%. Fun fact. Okay, so we multiplied essentially by 1.1. So that means in this cell, E8, I'm going to start my formula always with an equal sign. Take the cell reference, that's the number before it, so that's E7, and I'm going to simply multiply by 1.1. I'm not using an exponent here because I'm not going to cell reference the column D because, like I said, those are not formatted as numbers. It says after 1 year. What this is going to do then, when I push enter, it's going to take the previous cell and multiply it by 1.1. So that's going to be your new amount here. And if I want to format it as dollars, I could just go click currency. And that will conveniently round it to 2 decimal places. If we do an autofill by dragging the corner down, it's continually taking the cell before it and multiplying it by 1.1. I don't care if you leave the 1.1 there. The idea is that it should stay consistent, right? And actually that formatted as dollars, but you can see that's the same thing. 1.1 is 1.10, right? So I can get rid of that. That was just like my scrap work. Okay, the next one is population. So I don't need to format this as currency. So population, well, again, it does not look like it's adding the same amount, but if I want to check and see, I can go equal sign, take the second one, subtract the first one, enter, and then drag that corner, and I can see that it's not linear because it's not adding the same amount. So the opposite of that would be, you know, you can have linear, exponential, you might have neither. So if it's not multiplying by the same thing, then it's or adding the same thing, then it would be neither. So here I'm going to go equal sign, take that amount, divide it by the first amount, and I see I get 1.02. And you might just think to yourself, well, is that going to be consistent for the rest of those population growth? And what percent is the population growth? And when we see that 1.02, that 0.02 is a 2% increase. So that means we take all of the original population and we're going to add to that 2%. But when you multiply by 1.02, it does that automatically. So this one is very similar to this account value, the second example. So here we're going to go equal sign, click on the cell, that's B26, multiply it by 1.02, enter. That is rounding, and it's kind of gross to have a decimal place. There's a bug in my room. A decimal place when it comes to people. So we don't really want a decimal. So I'm going to go back over here and get rid of the decimal. And now it will round. You can also format it. We don't really want currency, but you can format it. Oops. I don't remember actually where to format it, but oh, there's probably format number. I just wanted a comma, but anyway. So in order to get that next one, we're going to drag the corner down, and you can see here that your population has increased. If I had left that formula equal sign, this one, the second one divided by the first one, you can see I get that 1.02. If I drag that corner down, that's true for all of them now because I just did multiply them by 1.02. All we need is the information in the table. I know someplace there is a little command to put a comma in there. Maybe I just leave it. I don't know. I just wanted a comma. Why can't I have a comma? Format. I don't know. I don't want to spend the time looking for a comma. You guys can look for a comma if you really want one. Or I could even just put that formatting, but then I get rid of the green. I just did a copy of the formatting. Okay, so next one looks like it's adding the same thing, but again, I can just pick any cell. It doesn't have to actually be right there. I'm just putting it next to it just for convenience. But if I go in any cell and I put equal sign, take the second number, subtract the first, I will get that difference. And then if I drag the corner, I can see that the difference is consistent. So since the difference is consistent, it means I added the same. And so what I'm going to do now is put my formula into E26 because I want to fill in the rest of the table. I'm going to take equal sign, the cell that comes right before, and add 1,500. Enter. And then autofill, that's going to allow that to add. And check your formulas here. That's what we want to do. We want to have those cell references in there. So hopefully that made sense. Now let me show you how to upload this. So you don't even have to save it. That's the cool thing about Google Sheets. It saves it automatically for you. So you don't have to save it. It's already saved. I can delete that scrapwork or leave it in there if you want. I don't care. If I see it, I'm going to be happy because I'll know you did it that way. You already saved it. And so now to upload it, we're going to go and click on the spreadsheets. And then you're going to click add file from your Google Drive. Now, if you don't have access to your Google Drive, I can show you how to do that in just a second too. Most of you hopefully by now have access to your Google Drive. Notice it's the very first thing I have in there. Actually, I did it twice. And so that's the reason why they're both in there. Even though it says last modified 7 p.m. It's not 7 p.m. I don't know what's up with the timestamp there. Okay, and then we just add. And so how convenient is that? And it adds it as an Excel, and then you push submit. You should get an email confirmation that it's done. Okay. And so finally, if you do not have access to your Google Drive, go to that home button. That's going to take you, when you click home, you'll be on your Desire to Learn page. You'll know that you have access to your Google Drive here. So if you don't see your unread mail and all of your stuff, your Google Drive here, what you'll want to do is authorize. Now, I can't actually do that because I've already done it, but it should give you a button to click to authorize connecting to your Google apps. And then you just go through the steps of pushing authorize and authorize again until you see that you have unread mail here. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful, and feel free to come to office hours if you have more questions, phone a friend, ask for help. All the tutors in the tutoring center should probably be able to help you with this, as well as a lot of your classmates are even sometimes better at this than I am. So that's it for Excel 1-4.